Imprisoned within heavy stone walls, hidden from the light of society, a group of lunatics cluster in the beams of sunlight that seep through iron bars from the window above. They grovel naked in the dirt and dust, flailing about as their minds deteriorate into a dark madness. This is Francisco Goya's The Madhouse, an 18 by 29-inch oil-on-panel painting from 1812 to 1819. It stands as a historically accurate representation of mental institutions during the late 18th to early 19th century. The moderate size of the work allows for the depths and details of the painting to manifest clearly while being small enough to create an uncomfortable intimacy with the viewer. Harsh shadows contrast with muddy splotches of white and brown. The hints of a burnt sienna underpainting highlight the flesh tones of the figures. Brushstrokes are messy and textured, both seeking to define and assume forms within the painting. We are drawn to the figure in the center, surrounded by 3 individuals and 2 clusters of people, with assumed forms of bodies framing the triangular composition. If we focus on the defined figures of the painting, they are naked, but all wear garments and accessories of sorts. The central figure is wearing a tricorn hat. The figures to his left are draped in dirty white fabrics, adorning crown-like headpieces, a staff here and a necklace there. On his right, a man with a feathered hat and a rifle-shaped protrusion, and below him, a man waves horns around his head. These can be seen as depictions of figures with power: military, soldiers, kings, priests, and a bull. Their descent into madness is shown through their scattered focus and contorted postures. The central figure aims his makeshift gun towards a void. The man to his right holds his foot, mouth agape. More abstractly, the use of light within the space creates a sense of a dimming tunnel. The light from the window may represent sanity or contact with the outside. It contrasts against the dark edges of the room, symbolizing madness and obscurity as the figures in the scene dissolve into less defined abstract forms. The surrounding figures enact different primal, desperate behaviors. Men plead into the ground and stare desperately beyond at the viewer. Sexual acts are hidden in the darkness. Figures crouch and huddle. Clothing falls from a man's legs with no sense of shame or realization. These come together to form a loss of power, a fall from society, and the dark remains of humanity when stripped of self-control. Why would Goya choose to paint such a subject with this sort of symbolism? The dark themes of this painting correlate to his personal life and his own struggles with mental health and illness. Goya started his career doing commissioned works for the wealthy, later being assigned as a court painter. Shortly afterwards, in 1792, he suffered an illness that gave him permanent deafness, tinnitus, and partial paralysis of his hands, limiting his ability to paint. He experienced recurring episodes of the illness throughout the rest of his life. Goya had early experiences with mental illness. His aunt and uncle were both diagnosed with insanity and sent away to a mental asylum. He witnessed the inside of the Zaragoza institution as a youth while visiting them. His experience is pictured in this work, Yard with Lunatics, painted in 1793 to 1794. This painting and The Madhouse were both painted during periods shortly following episodes of the artist's illness. Likely tormented by prolonged periods of sickness, he appears to have used art as an outlet for his anger and fear. He produced 14 small, non-commissioned paintings, known as the Black Paintings, between 1819 and 1823. They portray dark, haunting scenes that reflect insanity and desolate outlooks on humanity. Goya may have developed a fear of insanity from his previous childhood experiences surrounding the illness. His portrayal of an asylum in The Madhouse can be seen as a coping mechanism for his fears of going insane from his chronic illness. The symbolic loss of power and grim remains of societal structure seen in the central figures may reflect Goya's perception of insanity as a bleak loss of humanity in oneself. His experiences painting for figures of power and royalty may have influenced his choice in the portrayal of the figure's descent into madness. The disorientation he experienced from his deafness and tinnitus is reflected in the work, seen in his mixing of muddy colors to form both areas of abstraction and clarity. The essence of distortion is heightened in this scene, as if going insane would have made his symptoms more exaggerated and hellish. The primal behaviors and chaos of the work may act as a reflection of Goya's id portion of his mind, ignoring the socially acceptable rules and form of his previous works and portraying the fears that consumed his thoughts through his painting. In his later years of life, the creation of art appeared to be a form of escape for Goya from the mental agony of his illness. Art was a medium for him to express his innermost fears and torment while encapsulating the grim areas of the human condition. Demonstrating the darkness of his later works and the visual chaos of his mind, the Madhouse stands as a harrowing depiction of mental deterioration. It allows us to reflect on Goya's internal struggles with self and reality, providing opportunity to examine the darkness deep within our minds.